Hey everyone, welcome to, there we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the main event. My name is Joe Tillman, and today is, what is today? Tuesday, May 16th. Gosh, we don't have anything really exciting going on in the industry today, but I am going to be here to take your phone calls, answer your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. And if you don't know who I am, what I'm doing behind this microphone, my name is Joe Tillman, and I have been in the hair transplant industry for 20 years, been a hair transplant repair patient for almost 30 years, and I've taken my repair patient experience, my passion for hair transplant surgery, and my very seriously demented love-hate relationship with the hair transplant industry, and I've put it all online to where I review clinics, I go to clinics using my experience, what I've learned from working in clinics for 11 years, and I apply my, I review them based on my standards, based on what I think, how I think clinics should operate, both at the medical level as far as protocols, but also the aesthetic level for the artistic nature, the ability of the clinic to produce aesthetically natural looking results, and how they take care of their patients, how they educate their patients. For instance, I don't like clinics that advertise as if they're selling a used car, where they've got, flashy efforts to get your attention. I'm a big believer that if you have good work, the work will sell itself. The work will get the attention of the patients that you want as a clinic to be your patients. There's a whole philosophy to that. I was actually talking about that fairly recently on another episode where someone was asking me about what subject I would talk about if I were to give a TED Talk or a TEDx talk. And it is a great question. But yeah, that's kind of along the lines of what I'm talking about there. But this is a call-in show, people. I do have a toll-free number you can call. It's 1-833-563-4247. I am here to answer your questions about hair loss and about hair transplant surgery using my vast experience in this industry, having worked in clinics and being a patient myself. If you want to know about what's going on this week, as far as the show goes, I do have a special guest for Thursday. You may have heard of him, you may not have heard of him, but it's Dr. Bevan Boyrule from the Sinclair Dermatology Clinic in Australia. Why is he on? He's going to be on because he is one of the foremost experts in the world when it comes to the use of oral minoxidil for hair loss. And oral minoxidil is a huge subject right now. I've known Dr. Boyrule for a few years now, I think for about 3 years now, through presentations that he was submitting for Global Hair Loss Summit 2021 or 2020, which is an online hair loss conference that was started because of the pandemic, where doctors would not be able to travel to the traditional brick and mortar conferences that have been so popular over the years. And it was a first of its kind, and it was extremely successful. And Dr. Boyrule was invited and participated, and he's in the know when it comes to oral minoxidil. The Sinclair Clinic, Sinclair Dermatology, specifically Dr. Rodney Sinclair, he was the author of, I believe, the original studies, or at least some of the earliest studies about oral minoxidil for hair loss. And I actually don't know this. I want to find out how far back he's been using oral minoxidil, because I remember some patients I was speaking with many years ago that were taking Lonitin, tablets, which is oral minoxidil, many years ago back in Australia, that would call me and they were asking for consultations, and I talked to them. So I need to ask him about that. I've never asked him. I'll be asking him that on the air to get a little bit of a history on that. But he's very experienced when it comes to the dermatological approach to hair loss. There are some patients that I've referred to him, some you may have heard of, such as Adrian from the patient of eugenics. He's been seeing Dr. Boyrule. I can say that publicly because he's been talking about it himself. And so I think it's going to be a great show where you'll be able to call in and ask questions directly of Dr. Boyrule. And I think one of the more pressing questions, at least it's one of the more common questions I've been getting, is the long-term safety of oral minoxidil. We'll see what he has to say. I think it'll be interesting. 1-833-563-4247. The number is down here in the corner. Give me a call. I will be taking your calls to answer your questions. The call is toll-free in North America, and you can use your favorite calling app worldwide to also give me a call. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm not here to spend all day answering questions in the chat room, although I will answer some questions in the chat room to fill the space. Thank you, by the way, for everyone that's joining. I could appreciate, or I would appreciate, some more likes on this video. I know we just got started, been on air, maybe 5 minutes now, and I'd like to see some more likes. Let's crank that up. Let's make this a really busy show. So let's see. Happy Tuesday. Oh, thank you very much, WMA. That's very kind of you. Let's see. Neil Adams, how much finasteride milligrams you take per week daily? If you're asking me personally, I'm personally taking 2.5 every other day. And sometimes I alternate. Sometimes I'll do 1.25 every day. Sometimes I'll do 2.5 every other day. I've actually taken 2.5 daily in the past. I won't go into the rhyme and reason about why, but that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, let's see. Why does Spencer take 5 milligram once a week and not quarter per day? He's taken so much finasteride, he feels like it's saturated his system to where he can maintain with 5 mg once a week. And he said that he's being held steady, so apparently it works for him. Should you factor in half-life when considering dosage of finasteride, dutasteride? Dutasteride has humongously bigger half-life in your system. It does. True. Well, yeah, you can consider the half-life because many doctors do. They'll recommend dutasteride once a week, sometimes by itself, sometimes in tandem with finasteride. It is something to keep in mind. I mean, it's not detrimental if you take it every day, despite the long half-life. It just builds up more in your system. But you do need to consider finasteride's half-life if you don't want to take it very often, if you don't want to take it daily, because it does taper off and wane much sooner than dutasteride does. So, good question. Is minoxidil better brand or generic? That's from Mordecai. Morty, that's a great question. Given that I'm a brand whore, Lonitin tablets logically would be consistent, more consistent than generic, but I don't know how available that is, given that even generic oral minoxidil is difficult to come by. So I don't know. I would say brand if you can. That goes with any medication. Brand if you can. See what I did there? For the peace of mind. But I don't really have any experience speaking with patients about the difference between brand and generic because it's never really come up. Oral minoxidil is a fairly recent development as far as hair loss goes. So, but that's just a full disclosure. But it would make sense based on the way I look at things to be a brand whore and not for generic. So, hope that answers your question. Toll free, people, 1-833-563-4247. Give me a call. In the meantime, let's see. Jim73 says Lonington is no longer manufactured as a brand name. Okay, I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. Let's see. Questions off for bike ride. Okay, berm shot. Good for you. See, no questions. I don't really see any direct questions. People, I will be shutting down early. I got lots of stuff to do. When it comes to hair loss, most men start with minoxidil as their first treatment. Shouldn't it be finasteride instead? You know, a lot of people are scared off by finasteride just because of the man boob situation or the supposed sexual dysfunction claims. And you don't really hear that with minoxidil, even though minoxidil has cardiac side effects. It just goes to show you, men would rather have a functioning or non-affected sexual life as opposed to they're more willing to risk a heart attack than they are sexual dysfunction. Let's see. Oral minoxidil has been easy to obtain in my case, at least. Okay. How common is gynecomastia from finasteride, and how hard is it to get rid of? Gyno is not common. I've spoken with a few patients. It's not common at all, contrary to popular belief, based on my experience and based on what I've read. It is more common to have a little bit of tenderness that goes away in just a few weeks with the use of finasteride. I'm not a doctor, by the way, just my experience. But it's the way that you get rid of it, if you do have it, is to cease the medication. It should reverse itself. If it doesn't, or you want to continue the medication because you're having a great result, there is an outpatient procedure that you can have where the gland is removed, and that, just what I'm told by a few doctors, that it should be a fairly simple way to address it if you want to maintain with the use of finasteride and rid yourself of the gyno issue. I don't know, like, I've never spoken to a patient that's ever had that done, so I can't speak to the efficacy of that. It makes sense. The way it was explained to me, it makes sense. And I have no reason to doubt what was being told to me. So I hope that answers your question. Joe, would you give the bottom line on density? Joe, would you give the bottom line on density? I don't know what the question means, sorry. Oral Menin, let's see. Do you still think the Maitland Clinic in the UK is a good clinic? They're fantastic. The Maitland Clinic is a unique clinic in that, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I think they're uniquely qualified if one is looking for a natural result. Uniquely only in the fact that Dr. Ball is so picky about the hairs that go in the hairline. Dr. Ball is actually picky to a fault. You can be picky and choosy in life in certain areas to where it can be a detriment to your professional growth, and he's one of those doctors, and it's not a bad thing. It's just he's so picky about making sure that the hairline is as natural as it can be, that I think I don't know, it can be a detriment because, number one, he would never be able to expand and train another doctor because he would be so obsessed with the work coming out of his clinic that I don't know if he'd be able to train another doctor and be able to leave that doctor alone. That's what I'm talking about by a detriment. He may learn to be more relaxed in that regard at some point, but he's very good, exceedingly good at what they do there. Hope that helps. Joe, add the hot medical advice in your vid descriptions, maybe to help the cause. Oh, not medical advice in your video description. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I there's so many things to remember to add now, like, financial affiliations. I think I put I think I say I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I can do that. Milk drinker. I talked to Dr. Ball and found him super conservative and honest. He puts long-term naturalness first and was so honest. He even told me about a patient who got a bad outcome that he felt upset about. Yeah. He's very transparent, which is one of the things I like about him. I think everyone should be as transparent as Dr. Ball is. Hollow Inside 19. Joe, do you think bleaching your hair can make hair loss occur even faster than it should? I've been bleaching my hair, my long hair, for 4 years now, every 3 to 4 months. I mean, I can see how it could affect it. Well, there is the potential for damage, but it damaged the hair that's on the outside of the scalp. It's already exited the scalp and is visible. It shouldn't damage the follicle itself unless the bleach is left on too long, and then it burns down into the scalp and can cause damage. But if you're using the right kind of formulation and it's not too strong, then it should be fine. Just be careful with it, and it should be fine long term. See. Minaj Ahmed, are there any apps we can use to call instead of Skype? I don't know. I don't know of any other apps other than Skype, to be honest with you. I say that because I know there are apps at different that are used in different countries. Someone asked me if they could do WhatsApp. Well, WhatsApp is tied to an actual real phone number. I'm using an app for this toll-free number, so they don't connect. So that won't work. Sorry. What's the biggest natural follicular unit you've ever seen? How many hairs? I've seen a 6 hair graft. I don't think a 7. I think a 6 hair is the largest I've seen, a legitimate one. It's funny because some clinics will look at 2 follicular units as being one graft, and other clinics would look at that same graft as being 2 follicular units or even 3. Depends on how refined their work is. See, what model is your watch? Yes, it's a G-Shock. It's an old school G-Shock. See if you can see that. See, there we go. Wait, right there. Wait, trying to get the angle. There we go. It's not going to focus. Yeah, it's an old school G-Shock. I got a few watches. I like watches. I'm not particularly into super expensive watches. I've got some that are a bit more than I wanted to spend, but I like everyday watches. In fact, my favorite watch I had to send off to the manufacturer to be renovated. I've had it for 18 years. I got it through a patient who had some connections, and he hooked me up with someone. And it's a beautiful watch. It's a Swiss watch, beautiful diver's watch. And I was lucky enough to, I went to the website and I actually reached out to the manufacturer. I said, hey, I know this has been out of production for a while. Sent them some pictures. I'm missing this. This got knocked off, and I'm not sure about the integrity underwater anymore because I had to have the crystal replaced. Can you guys do a refurbishment? And they're like, sure, send it in. So I'm excited. It's coming back. I'm excited to get it back because I think it's a beautiful watch. It's one of the most beautiful watches I've ever had, and it's fun. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Let's see what's going on with my laptop here. There we go. Yeah, toll-free people. 833-563-4247. You can also call that, like you can use your regular phone to call it if you don't mind a short international long distance call, because, short or long, it's up to you, but you don't have to use a calling app. David Anthony, is there such a thing as best hair transplant doctor or clinic? Does each doctor have their own individual strengths and artistry? Question asked, question answered. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think I know who this is. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Nico, Joe.
Oh, hey, Nico. How you doing, buddy? I thought it was actually going to be Morty because I saw the area code.
Yeah.
But it's my other favorite New Yorker. How you doing, buddy?
I appreciate that. How are you doing, man?
Can't complain.
That's good. I'm actually just demonstrating to the chat that you can call, and it's easy, and that you don't have to always, check the chat, and you could ask your question like I'm doing, and I don't even have a question. I'm just demonstrating that it's possible to call.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. What's interesting is I think there are people don't like to call simply because they don't want to be like it's they don't like to engage on this level, and I understand to a degree.
I hear you.
But they can also take advantage of getting a hold of me in the chat room, because I wind up reverting to the chat, and I need to be a bit more disciplined about that by saying, okay, I'll answer 5. You've inspired me, my friend. I'll say.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be a buzzkill.
No. You inspired me. It's like I'll answer 5 questions in the chat room before I wind down if I don't get a phone call. That's the ultimatum I'm going to put out there, because.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Everyone else, yeah. No, I was going to say it'll motivate someone to call. I used to be shy about shit. Just give a call. It's easy. It's fun.
Yeah.
Actually.
And what's funny is that it usually like I might get a couple phone calls and it dies for maybe half an hour, and I'm left with reading questions in the chat room, and then it's nothing but phone calls for the rest of the show, which is great.
Yeah.
I like to have a bit more consistency throughout instead of having these long periods where I'm answering chat room questions. But, it is what it is. But you've inspired me where I think from now on, if I don't get calls, I'll announce that I'll answer 5 questions in the chat room unless I get another call, and then I'll take the call. If I don't, then it's the end of the show for the day. I think that's a good idea. What do you think?
Yeah. I think so too. I feel bad because I like being in the chat and hearing seeing all the questions and you answering them and running it down. But I think people forget about how lucky we are, and I hate to. It's not about brown nosing. How lucky we are to have someone who, with your experience, doing what you do.
Well, thank you.
In this occasion, not on Fridays. It's very unique, and hit Joe up, people. It's a great opportunity. So,
well, what's interesting is that I've been learning as I kind of investigate the overall hair loss community online. The number of people that are actively, asking questions anywhere, it's fairly small. So I feel like sometimes I feel fortunate with the number of views I get, or the subscribers I get, things like that, because I realize that it is a pretty niche. This will never be like a Rogan-esque type, like it'll never be hundreds of thousands of people or anything like that. But it is a very unique niche area of the internet. Our corner. So. I'm appreciative of all the calls, and this is an experiment. I don't know how long I'll be doing this daily, Monday through Thursday, because I do have a lot to do during the day. I got like 5 videos I'm trying to edit. I'm talking to 4 different clinics about membership, new memberships, trying to come on board. And then dealing with the stuff that I shouldn't have to deal with, like contractors, because 2 walls over, they're nearly finished repairing some walls and ceilings, which I'm very thankful for. But I there's certainly things I could be doing other than this. So it is an experiment to see what kind of interest there is for the long term.
Sure.
There've been some days where it's just been fantastic, like, oh my God, wow, like call after call after call. And a few days where it's there was one where I shut down after 36 minutes. It's like, okay, all right, you don't want to talk, it's fine. Have a great day. So it is what it is. And I'm prepared for either way. Fantastic success or crash and burn. We'll see how it works out long term. But I appreciate you your comments in the chat room and your calls. What's that?
I am going to ask a question while I have you.
Okay.
And I know this has been asked in the past, and it's not surgery based, unfortunately, because I know it's your wheelhouse. But in the past, I remember on Fridays, at least Spencer's probably addressed it. I'm not sure if you have. Why isn't there regulatory oversight in the industry? Why can't someone like a Spencer or someone show up and talk about all the harm that's
done? A great
and
question.
If it's a $1 billion industry, or maybe even trillion, who knows at this point? Why isn't there any?
Well, there was an attempt, or I'll say a threat of oversight by the government in the late 90s. I forgot the exact details, but the gist of the issue of the story goes, was it the FTC, I think, was threatening to crack down on the industry as a whole because of false claims in advertising. And
makes sense.
So the industry formed what's called the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery, the ABHRS.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it exists, as an attempt to self-regulate.
Right.
Which is it's completely useless as far as that goes. The only thing that the ABHRS actually does is they have an exam, oral and written exam, that they present a couple times a year, and if you pass, then you are an ABHRS diplomat, and it's called the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery. It is not an actual recognized board, and they even state on their website that it is recommended that members do not refer to themselves as board certified hair restoration surgeons. They don't say it in the same language, but it's because it's meaningless and it's misleading, because it's not a board that's recognized by the larger regulating society of medical boards. It's not recognized. It's misleading to even call it the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery, but it is what it is. But that was the outcome of the industry dealing with the threat of government oversight, which prevents you as a patient, in my view, from being protected properly with actual strict regulation.
Yeah.
Because right now there is no oversight on the way that clinics present themselves. At least not yet. At least, well, not officially. I can say that there is something in the works. It's been kind of put on a back burner for the past year and a half, but there is something in the works to help identify clinics that are exercising truth in advertising, which I think is going to be super important, super valuable, and will help to even the playing field among those that are making exorbitant claims versus those that are being upfront and honest and transparent with their presentations, which I think is the way to be. And I'm excited for it. I'm frustrated because it's been on pause, but when it becomes a thing, I think it'll, with people like you helping, talking about it, and maybe posting about it someplace, I think it has the potential to help rein in this industry with its crazy claims and advertising BS that goes on. Like I was talking about that one clinic in the Midwest where they've got the staff dancing like they're in a disco. Like shit like that won't fly.
Yeah,
that won't fly. That'll get a clinic on the naughty list when it comes to this organization real fast.
Awesome.
So I'm glad you asked that question. I hadn't thought about that in a while. It's something that I need to bring up behind the scenes.
Decades of an industry, and it's just fascinating. But I figured I'd ask, and maybe hopefully someone's going to call in a sec. But just again, thanks for your time, and just letting the audience know. Give a call.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks as always, Nico. You're the best.
You bet, man.
Take care, man.
No, you are. Thanks, man. You too.
1-833-563-4247, toll-free North America and worldwide from the calling app of your choice. I am here to answer your questions about surgical hair restoration and hair loss treatments, present and future, and of course, phone call. And got a second one coming in as well. Hey, you're on Main Event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Hello, Morty from Brooklyn. How are you, my friend?
You mentioned my name, and so I figured I had to call.
Well, I was just reading what you wrote in the chat room, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, I listened to the whole brand thing when it came to ProScar, and I'm still on it.
Yeah.
But with the minoxidil, it didn't seem obvious that it was easy to get, brand. And so I'm on the generic. My experience has been positive, and net positive in kind of strange ways. I don't know if I talked about it. One is I believe that my second procedure, my telogen ratio was lower, so I had fewer hairs in telogen that were extracted during the first procedure. That could just be the luck of the draw, or it could be that, because one of the things that minoxidil does is it keeps hair as an anagen. So it means more hair as an anagen, and that means that's entirely possible that it might have been because of the oral minoxidil. The other thing is I've noticed that my hair has gotten a bit darker. Some of those grays aren't quite as gray as they were before. So
I've heard that.
Nice.
I've heard that as a upside side effect with minoxidil in general, not just oral but also topical, but more so with oral, and that's another thing that interests me because I've got more gray than ever.
And don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. But what's interesting is that I'll have people in the chat room, or not the chat room, but the comment section from time to time tell me to stop dyeing my hair so it matches my beard. And I'm like, I'm not dyeing my hair. I haven't dyed my hair in 15 years. When that's when I was playing with blonde streaks and shit. When I first got my hair back, it's like I can. That's why I was doing it. But yeah, it's weird. My beard is it's a lot more salt than pepper at this point.
Yeah, it is what it is. It looks good on some guys, and some guys are a little more self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
You're on the dating market. You want to try to skew younger.
I can understand that. For me, it doesn't I kind of like my beard. I kind of like the gray and the white, but my focus on hair right now is I've been playing with the length. I've been letting it grow quite a bit, and I've been taking 3,000 micrograms of MSM, which has really accelerated the growth, nails, hair, and I've not had my hair this long in probably 12 years, give or take.
Oh wow!
I'm usually keeping it much shorter, and I'm digging it. I'm digging the length. I don't know. People in the chat room, you can, and in the comments section on the replay, you can let me know what you think of the length. I'll do a little turnaround here to show the length. It seems to me like one thing I've noticed is it has alleviated the obvious transition or direction change.
Oh, nice.
There's my crown. that your friend John Cole used to give me a hard time about, and turns out he was right. Where if you have too many strips, the change in direction of hair growth will become more apparent. And I used to argue with him. We used to get in fights on one of the old forums that's no longer around, and I actually was at one of my phone calls with him a couple years ago. I said, Doc, I got to tell you, you were right. And he goes, what about? I was like, the direction of the hair change direction with too many strips. Mm-hmm. He goes, oh yeah, you're cutting your hair short, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, that's what happens. I never had my hair short enough to notice it back in the day. I always had it longer, and it's like, damn it if he's right. Shit. Right. But it is what it is. It doesn't really bother me. But at this length, it's much more difficult to notice. And I don't know. I'm kind of digging the length. I'm going to keep going longer. What do you think? Should I go longer or keep it where it is?
I would say, you know what? The beautiful thing about having hair is that if you don't like it, you could cut it and then it'll grow back. So there's the answer to that.
Spoken like a true hair transplant success story.
Yeah. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like when you're losing it, you don't dare cut it because it might not come back.
Yeah.
But when it's growing, just cut it.
You know what? You're exactly right. Like how many times I've spoken to someone that says that they're afraid to cut their hair because they're afraid of it not coming back. I can't count. Like I've counted. I've talked to so many guys like that. They're afraid of cutting their hair. And it's like, really? Cutting your hair? That doesn't really do anything. But it's they're just hanging on to everything they can for dear life. And I get it. I understand. But when you get it back though, it's like, shit, I love cutting it because it's change, it's difference, it's experimentation, it's fun. When I first got my hair back after my third surgery with Dr. Wong, man, I was going for the Simon Le Bon look. I'd go for the pompadour look at times. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun for sure.
I hear that, man. So yeah, actually, you brought up MSM, and I'm glad you did because I've been meaning to ask you a question about it, and every time I call in, it slipped my mind. And the question has to do with your dosage because you talk about micrograms. Now, I've got one of these joint formulas. It's glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, but the MSM is in milligrams, not micrograms.
Have I been saying micrograms?
Yes, you have. And I just was like, because huge difference. One of magnitude. So it was like,
Yeah, that's my mistake. I mean to say milligrams because I remember reading it as micrograms at one point when I was reading a paper about it, and I think I misread it, and for some reason it stuck with me. I'm not sure why. Okay. Well, so sometimes I'll say micrograms. I mean milligrams.
Okay, good. I'm glad because I'm on a regular. Like I said, this formula has about 600 milligrams per tab, and you said you're taking tab once a day, or twice, or 3 times a day, or
I take it. I take it once. I take it in the mornings.
Okay. Yeah.
With my breakfast. Okay,
yeah. Gotcha. All right. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the main thing.
3 horse pills.
So you take all 3 of them. Oh, I get you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Nice. Because I usually just take 1 tab. But hey, if 3's, then 3 is the right thing to do. Because hey, I want my hair to grow back faster. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
The faster it grows back, the more you can play with it.
Well, no, exactly. And I found that I found that like my fingernails, that not only do they grow faster, they look healthier. And I've always struggled with my fingernails. I'm not a biter or anything like that. It's just I just struggle with them looking presentable. I'm not a manicure guy, but it's I don't have time to maintain them, and it's just like not my thing. But I've found that when I take MSM consistently, and I've been really consistent for the past 10 weeks, I think. They just look better. My skin looks better. Everything made of keratin and collagen look better, and it's helpful. Yeah, So I highly recommend it. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I take a collagen supplement. One of these scoops of that in with my smoothies in the morning, and I take one. But if you're taking 3, that's an interesting data point for me. So I'm going to look into that.
The 3,000 came up. 3 1,000 milligram capsules or tablets. They got the hard pills and they got the capsules. Same difference. You can also buy the powder. Just in a bucket. And the guy that first introduced me to this that's what he was taking, 3,000, and that just became the number that people would talk about. And so that's what I do. I may even up it. I was actually thinking about upping it to like 5,000 per day. Yeah. Just to see. I've never gone above it.
5 grams of this stuff. That's like a scoop.
Yeah, it's supposedly safe.
Your gut can handle it.
It's supposedly safe. I'm looking into it. I'm not going to just start doing it willy nilly. I'm going to do some more research on it. But it should be safe from what I've seen so far.
Okay. Well, good luck. Let me know how it goes. Any particular brand, or do you just?
No, I just stick with like there's a vitamin brand that I trust. It's been around forever, and I've used it before for other like multivitamins, stuff like that, and it seems to be quality product. So I don't cheap out on it, but I also don't waste my time trying to order it from specialty stores that you can only get online. I don't deal with that. It's a good brand that's at the local grocery store or health food store.
Nice. One last question I did want to ask you, and that had to do with the stuff that was talked about. Hairloss 2000 talked about the new approach to clinical trials, and I think it's interesting because I work in the clinical trial space. I work for a company that does technology for clinical trials, and they're always trying to make it so that clinical trials can still produce clinically significant outcomes with a smaller number of actual participants. And the way they do it is they use the way my company does is they use this thing called a synthetic placebo arm, where what they'll do is if they're trying to study a particular attribute of a group of people, is they'll go back into history and they say, hey, we want to do a 1-year study of men, say, between the ages of 35 and 45 that have high blood pressure, and that, and that we're in a placebo group for some drug. You can reuse that same placebo arm to look at whatever other data was gathered about those people, and then use that instead of having to recruit as many actual real people in a true placebo arm. And the big thing with these types of tests is that recruitment is the thing that takes the longest time to get participants in. And then if the participants drop from the study, then in order to keep significance, you have to keep on recruiting. And, it's reasons why these things take so long. But the other interesting thing is what's been happening, and I guess maybe this isn't a new thing, is things like the cosmeceutical route where, a lot of these companies are just foregoing the whole process altogether, which is what Hairloss Cure 2000 talks about. Yeah. And, I know that it's not the first time that, we're seeing products that are making it into the market without going through that particular channel. It's just, this is the first time I think that it's been that open and obvious about it. And I don't necessarily know whether that's good or bad, and I wanted your thoughts.
Well, I think one reason why we haven't heard about it before is because it wasn't possible. I know in the EU, particularly in the UK, they've been legislating these shortcuts to fast-track studies. And it actually, I think it started because of the pandemic with... Actually, scratch that. It started before the pandemic because the previous administration, they actually, I remember hearing about this, and I thought it was a brilliant move. It's the, what's it called? It was the Right to Try Act, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
Where patients that were in dire need of a particular treatment or any treatment for a particular ailment would, under this act, had the right to try something, even though it may not have cleared trials yet. Like it may be in trials, but it hasn't been it hasn't completed. It hasn't gone through the entire process. They would be able to try it regardless if it was urgent, if it was a terminal issue. And it wound up being successful for a lot of people. And then that's the first I heard of it. And then the UK introduced legislation to directly affect the approval process and what companies have to go through to get through it. They're the first to really start fast tracking that, and then the EU itself followed suit with their own relaxed guidelines, going the cosmeceutical route. So I wonder if the US is on the same path as far as the cosmeceutical side of things. My gut tells me no, but there may be pressure from the pharma industry, and there's a whole nother sub story to go, or rabbit hole to go down on that one. But I would imagine that there would be pressure from the pharma industry to change that in the U.S. as well, against the FDA's better judgment. But I don't know. We'll see. My feelings on it are that I think you'll see more liability issues popping up because of it. There will, just because of the published fact that the approval process has been shortened for XYZ reasons. I think that in and of itself would manifest in more libel claims. Just on its face, because if someone has a side effect, they'll blame the process. Therefore, blame the regulatory agencies and look for a payout. Whether it's legitimate or not, I won't be able to say. But I think that in of itself will cause problems on that level. As far as the safety goes, I think logically speaking, there could be an increase in safety. Adverse safety events that will pop up. I just can't I just can't say the frequency or the severity, but I can't. You don't have a crystal ball. I can't see anything good coming out of it, to be honest with you. Except certain cases where something might be, like if there's some like say a dutasteride issue versus finasteride. The original dutasteride studies were halted. Presumably, what I remember hearing originally is because the manufacturer decided, you know what, finasteride owns the market. Are we really going to, see an ROI on this that's worth having after so much money being put into it and so much time? If that were something that were in a fast track environment, then you might have seen dutasteride as a FDA approved medication for hair loss.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of niches, where companies are, really trying to. These are the smaller companies that are trying to invest in things like the anti-aging market. Like, there's a lot of companies out there that are selling metformin, for example, as an anti-aging drug. Yeah, so there's the whole thing about off-label use. And again, I mean, when you're talking about dutasteride and minoxidil, these are off-label uses of drugs, and even finasteride, actually, off-label uses of drugs that are out there. So that's one thing. The problem with those that I see is that you getting a company to invest money in a clinical trial to test a secondary use of an off-label drug isn't really financially viable, because it's like the things in the market, doctors can go ahead and experiment, but again, the number of people that can basically do, I mean, you're going to talk to Barul about this with respect to minoxidil. The number of participants in a study for, say, oral minoxidil for hair growth is going to be maybe, less than 100, as opposed to if you think about how many participants were in these vaccination trials, you get tens of thousands.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a problem for a patient because, the doctor will tell you, hey, this thing seems to be good or this other thing seems to be good for hair loss. But at the end of the day, even drugs that are the highest levels of evidence those levels of evidence are paltry compared to, say, some of the evidence on the more general use type of medications.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one thing. The other thing has to do with, it seems to be big differences in terms of the method of consuming, whether you're talking about topical or you're talking about, injectables, or you're talking about, something in between, like these patches,
Mm-hmm.
These types of transdermals. And each of them also have their own, like, little differences in terms of, the risk to the human body and how much of this stuff makes it into wear and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of a minefield, actually.
Oh yeah, no, of course. And the other thing is, if you've got medications that are being reevaluated for a secondary use, I don't even see the relevancy of that if it's easy for any doctor just to prescribe off label, just like Finasteride has been done since the beginning. So, they're growing on top of their head. Like you never know. So I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. That's for sure.
I hear you.
Yeah.
For sure. Topicals, to me, topicals are funny. Years ago, I tried, this was, I forget what it was. It was called, it was this, it was the stuff that you'd smear on your skin for, I don't know what it was. It was one of these things you get in a health food store. You'd smear it on your skin, and then within 5 or 10 minutes, you'd have this, like, garlicky taste in your mouth. And so this is clearly something that's being absorbed topically, but it's getting into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of driving me crazy what it was called. I think it was some sort of a solvent that was used. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, anyway, just mostly just calling to fill the air there, Joe, and to let you know how much I appreciate you and to let you know that things are still growing nicely.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm happy to hear it, and I'm really looking forward to your final result because I think it's going to be spectacular. It really is.
All right, boss. Well, thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Anytime.
Toll free 1-833-563-4247. Lines are open to have your hair loss and hair transplant questions answered. That number is toll free. North America, you can call using Skype or the calling app of your choice. And we got another call. Hello, Los Angeles. You're on the main event. What's your name?
This is Gypsy from LA.
Hello, Gypsy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I keep calling because we're not getting calls. I think Nico, Morty, and I we're going to be on some sort of blacklist pretty soon.
Well, it's fine that you call. I appreciate the support, and you're a good caller. So, all of you guys are, and you guys are asking questions, and that's what this is about. So, I'm happy to help and impart my knowledge upon you. What would you like to know, my friend? What are your questions?
Well, I actually have more, if I may, maybe a couple of comments on things. So
I just got to say, before you do, your question about how to deal with topic on your head after being in bed with a woman, headbutting her and having her face look like she just got out of a charcoal barbecue was hilarious. I listened to that again last night, and I was laughing my ass off. That was a funny story, man. that was a great story.
That's good. However, I think you should dye your grades because they're affecting your memory. That was a different color.
Oh, was it a different color? I thought it was.
It was.
Oh, sorry. That was that was one after you. That's right. That was That was
exactly. It was the one after me.
The Norwood guy.
Yes. Never mind. But you know what? I do sympathize with the feeling because I've been, like someone said, black pillow covers are the savior.
That was a great idea for sure. That was our boy FSK in the UK that said that.
Correct. So I do use the hairspray to lock it in and everything, but there's still that little thing in the back of my mind and everything. Actually, one of my friends. He uses the topic too, and he's a big guy, and they're always going out to bars, and they took an Uber, and for some reason the driver wasn't a great driver, and he went over a bump or a pothole or something, and they all bounced, and he hit the roof of the car, and it was a beige car, and there was just a big dark spot on the sunroof.
I saw that one coming. That's good.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so listen, just on what Nico had asked about the regulatory agencies, and I may have a slightly different take on that. Not a take, but more of an opinion, I guess. Because I've seen this across many industries, given the fact of what I do for a living. And I think that when that tends to happen, all these professionals, whether it be doctors or whatever, they get together, and of course they have these associations, and then the attorneys get involved. And I think there's a lot of pushback and lobbying to have the government regulate this. And from where I stand, it seems to me, at least, to be related to the fact that we're in a capitalist, system versus where it would be if it's a more socialist or communist, where there's a lot of government intervention and regulation. And I'm pretty sure those words get thrown around a lot behind closed doors. Whereas, in the capitalist system, the market, the free market, the idea of the free market is supposed to regulate itself, and the customers are the ones who are either going to make you or break you. And I'm pretty sure that stuff like that gets thrown around now. That's not to say that the government doesn't regulate. It usually regulates the wrong things. But I see it in the MAA, in the American Psychological Association, and all that stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff that's happening right now without getting too
Well, I know at one point, I don't know if it's still going on now, but at one point there was a push by the bigger companies to eliminate the opportunity of compounding pharmacies from selling their version of different medications online.
Correct.
They're basically trying to crush your ability to get Finasteride.
Yeah.
Where on the box it talks about benign prostate hyperplasia for hair loss. In other words, medications for off-label, and being able to order it online and shipped across state lines.
Yeah, and unfortunate for them that the Sherman Act exists, which is the anti-monopoly situation where you can strong arm someone out of the business. But they do that. And related to that, I know you had a caller where you mentioned, why do not some pharmacies ship to, just in the mail? I've actually helped a client set up a couple of pharmacies in different states precisely for mailing, medications. And there's a lot of regulation behind it. A lot, especially with compound or sterile, medications. You basically have to get a license in every single state. And California is probably the toughest one. I mean, it takes a long time. It took us about 2 years just to get the license.
Yeah.
So that's that. Another point that I wanted to kind of bring out, I know I believe it was yesterday, you had a caller that was talking about, that if you're not an expert in a certain field, you probably should refrain from commenting on certain issues.
Well, that was a comment in the comment section, I think.
No, it was a call.
It was a call?
It was the guy on the bicycle in Vancouver.
Oh, yes, Charlie. Yeah.
So I kind of do agree with him, but I also differ from his opinion. I think because, I think he was talking about either Cole or Shapiro, one of them. I think that, being that the field does require to be familiar with other things that may affect what your service is, you should have at least some sort of familiarity or some sort of an opinion on what that might do.
Well, I agree, but I also recognize the fact that even, refer back to the hair transplant industry, you can have two world-class experts in hair restoration having completely conflicting opinions on the same case.
On
the same subject. So when it comes to this particular subject matter of testosterone levels, I totally understand where he was coming from, but at the same time, I go back to that same analogy. It's like, well, you can have two experts in hormone replacement therapy having completely different opinions on an approach when it comes to testosterone levels or where they should be. It's not as far as I know, I could be wrong, but I don't think that there is a consensus across the board that the levels need to be at a specific level, or the testosterone needs to be at a certain level to be considered normal. That there are higher and lower ranges that are considered by different specialists to be acceptable, to be in that quote unquote normal range.
I agree. I agree because it's not a straightforward answer. It's not a cookie cutter, and everybody's body and other issues, comorbidities, will definitely affect the end result.
Yeah, and like I said though, I do understand and sympathize with Charlie's view on that because he has his opinion based on his experience, which has been very successful for him. And I'm super happy for her. I love getting his call. Him and his wife, they sound like they're a hoot. And the fact that he's always calling while he's biking around the seawall, probably around English Bay, which in Vancouver is like a really really nice area. Just kind of reinforces the image I have of this guy. I've never met him, but I'm sure he's a bit eclectic. He sounds eclectic. He seems eclectic, and I respect the hell out of that. So, yeah,
no, he sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, he does. I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. But yeah, different views, different opinions. Everyone has them.
Yeah. Well, related to that, the part that I do agree with him up to some point is that, yeah, you probably shouldn't give any specifics or get too rooted in a certain position, because even if you're an expert in the field, there's going to be different opinions. But related to that, I know you guys have mentioned, or you mentioned, Dr. Huberman, the neuroscientist, who recently did a pretty long video on hair loss.
Yeah.
It was about a 2-hour video.
It was.
And funny enough, what's his name? Hair Cafe?
I don't know.
Yeah, the biggest supporter of Finasteride. His channel, Hair Cafe. Kevin Mann.
Oh, Kevin Mann. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. He actually did a video in response to Dr. Huberman.
Okay.
And it was pretty interesting. It's about a 20-minute long video where he pretty much rains on his parade and says, you know what, all the stuff that he's saying has already been proven not to be effective, like the whole blood flow theory and massages and all that stuff. And he's like, I get it that he has the credentials as a neuroscientist and PhD, but he's not a hair loss expert, and he shouldn't be making these types of recommendations. What I like about Kevin, I think he went a little overboard, but what I like about Kevin is that he always presents the sources and the documents where you can refer to that. So in that sense, I think what Charlie was saying is probably would apply, at least partially. I'm keeping an open mind, but I did see the video and yeah, there were quite a few things that just didn't sound right coming from Huberman.
I didn't watch the whole thing because I just don't have that kind of free time. I wish I did. Right. I really wanted to watch it. I actually really did. I was able to catch like maybe the first 20 minutes or so, and I actually stopped because I realized if I continue to listen to this, I will not get my project done that I told myself, and it just kind of got put on the shelf. I do want to come back and watch it, but you're telling me that he was endorsing the idea of scalp massages to increase blood flow, therefore increasing hair growth?
He did mention, he alluded to that, not necessarily directly sponsoring that, but even Kevin Mann said, like, the beginning was great simply because he went through the details and the physiological description and the mechanisms and all the stuff. He did a beautiful job on that. It's when he got to what can be done about it that he had a problem with.
Yeah.
And I would say if you don't have the time, just watch the reaction and the abridged version, because he does put clips of what he said when he's responding to that.
I may try to do that. How long is this video that this guy put out?
About 20 minutes.
Okay. I might see if I can do that. There's so many other things that I want to do, but God, sometimes I want to be as far away from hair as possible, but I can't because it keeps sucking me back in. But yeah, no, I appreciate the heads up on that, because I would like to look at that. I've wanted to get back to that Huberman video so I could digest it and then dissect it if possible or if necessary. Sounds like it might be necessary, because if he's talking about scalp massages, then I want to hear what he says about it before I comment. So maybe I will. I won't do a live stream reaction, because that's just too much of a that wind up being a 4-hour video. No, thank you. So yeah,
in my opinion, I think is necessary for the simple reasons that he's a big name. He does have a lot of followers and a big audience. And if things are not, being disseminated, in this, that from what I understand, this is the whole point of this show and About Truth, is to educate us properly.
Oh yeah.
So, someone having that much influence, if it's the wrong information, is no different than any influencer. The only difference is that the credentials back him up.
Yeah, it's you could even argue it's different because it seems to be more legitimate. It seems to be more credible because of who's stating it. So yeah, you've inspired me. You've convinced me. Yeah. I need to watch it. I need to watch this video and make notes. So maybe I'll put out my own reaction video. There's so much to react to. So many videos to react to. Oh God, I wish there were 5 of me and it still wouldn't be enough. And I wouldn't get along with myself, so that'd be ugly, but
Well, I'm going to give you another one.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, you might be aware. I don't know. So I recently saw a Gary Linkoff video.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about oral minoxidil.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is, have you heard of feelconfident.com? And I may be doing a boo-boo here because people now are going to hear about this, but
it rings a bell.
He mentions feelconfident.com.
Uh-huh.
And for the people who were asking about generic, oral minoxidil and all that, that video actually raised that question in my mind, because I'm like, oh, well, if they don't, and someone said they no longer make oral minoxidil as Klonopin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming maybe everything's generic out there, or maybe the original company still makes it under a different name. But it seems that feelconfident.com, it's either Gary's company or he's heavily associated with them.
Well, you said the name, and I immediately thought, well, isn't that Gary's website? Like I could be wrong, but I thought that's.
I don't know if it's his website, but I did check it out, and they're taking a similar approach to Hims, Roman, Keeps, all that. And so now they're doing the online consultation, prescription, subscription type of thing. But the difference between all the others, I'm currently on Keeps, and I'm planning to move away from that. We discussed that already. But that kind of put a light bulb over my head, because it was the one company that is offering oral minoxidil on a subscription basis.
Okay. Well, they're based in Greenville, Michigan, so it's not in New York where Gary is. But and I'm looking at it says here, get to know us. Our national network of healthcare providers are caring, compassionate experts in treating patients. And it's got 3. One's an RN, one's an MD. One's a APRN. I don't know what APRN is. And one's a physician assistant, so they can all write prescriptions. And it says meet the medical team. Let's see if he's on the. Yeah, I've heard of none of these people. None of these people.
If you go to the, where did I go? I went to might have been the web page, the homepage or something, but his picture is there for sure, and he does heavily advertise the website on this video. At the end, of course, he did put a link to it on the description of the
video. There he is. Okay, sorry, I actually got taken to a different website, or that's weird. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, he's on it. So I feel confident born out of our YouTube
very
channel.
Bottom.
This is his gig. Feel confident was born out of our YouTube channel, focused on delivering the most honest information related to facial plastic surgery. Yeah, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Good for him.
For people looking for oral minoxidil and consultation, I don't know if I'm doing a disservice to the community by putting it out there, but I plan to look at it myself and then ask the questions: where does it come from, the manufacturing, all that good stuff. Because it seems like it might be an option.
Yeah, it may be. Yeah, I think it's always important to ask the source, like where's this coming from. Whether they'll tell you or not is a different story.
Correct.
But it doesn't hurt to ask, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question becomes, will people asking the question know what it means when they get the answer? Will they understand the answer? Like, okay, well, it comes from such and such in such and such country. What does that mean?
Well, I think for all of us that listen to you, we've been trained well to keep digging until either they give us the answer or they say, I don't know.
Well, we hope people will, because I think it's important. Mm-hmm. But that's good information. Thanks a lot for that. What else is going on? Everything else going well?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Okay. Dyed the beer. I do dye the beer because I became Papa Smurf very, very young at my age.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Nothing wrong. Actually, I was torn in between those two. A buddy of mine convinced me to do it, but it was funny because when I had the gray beard, I was attracting more females, especially the younger ones, for some reason.
Daddy complexes.
That's what I thought too. I'm like, okay, I see. Broken home. Got it.
The power of the gray. All right, my friend. Well, it was great hearing from you. I appreciate the call as always. That's good information there. That's something I'll listen to again on the replay. I appreciate it. But look forward to your next call, and you have yourself a great day. Okay, enjoy your Tuesday.
No problem. You as well. And I will highly encourage anybody that it's on the borderline of calling or not calling to call. Because, sometimes, no, definitely. I mean, I would love to call every day or when I have the chance, but I think that other people should call in and maybe they're thinking about it. And look, your question might also help someone else.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right.
You have a good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. All right.
Toll free 1-833-563-4247. That's toll free North America, and use a calling app of your choice to give me a call. Let's talk about hair loss. Talk about your hair loss. Let's talk about a celebrity's hair loss. Let's talk about hair transplant surgery, your hair transplant surgery. Are you considering having a hair transplant? If so, what's your situation? What are the questions you have about it? Are you booked? Is it something that you've already set up? Something you're considering booking? Let's talk about it. Let me know what's going on. Let's see. Are there any questions in the chat room? Well, let's go back to the chat. I had some good calls there. Appreciate everyone calling in, by the way. And please hit the like button on this video. Show your support, just like this caller. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Appreciate everyone calling in, by the way. And please,
hello?
Hello. Can you please turn down the speaker in the background?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I just heard the phone ring. You got a different setup than the Bold Truth, then?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, all right. It's Mike. It's Mike in NYC. What's up, man?
Hey, Mike. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Yeah, not much. I've been listening, a couple nights. I really like the new show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It takes a lot of dedication, so I give you to do it every night. So I give you credit for that.
Well, thank you. I need to hear that because it's not easy, and there are times when it has nothing to do with other than the fact that I've got so much that's going on already to dedicate 2 hours in the middle of the day when I'm most productive. Like there are 2 times a day when I'm most productive. Late at night, like midnight to 1 o'clock, and then middle of the day around 3. And I decided to do the show in the middle of one of those productive periods. And I wrestle with it, my friend. I wrestle with it. So I appreciate your support.
Definitely. No problem at all. Thank you for what you're doing. But I guess I thought I'd just call in because it's your new show and let you know I got a little bit of news going on where my second surgery is actually officially booked. And it's funny because you just said if you're booking surgery, you call up. I said, well, let me call.
Yeah. Okay. Do tell, my friend. What's going on? What's the game plan? Who are you going with? And what's up? Yeah.
Well, I'm going back to Dr. Bruno Ferreira, who had the great first surgery that I mentioned a few times, and everything went well. I'm pretty much at final result point at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing we spoke about was, that the left side was kind of taking a little while to catch up, and it pretty much did catch up. I'd say close to, it never fully dense, but it definitely caught up to the point where it didn't upset me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's supernatural, super great result. So I contacted the office again, and it was looking like it was going to be at some point next year, like spring. And then something happened where they were somehow able to fit me on until last second. There was one open date in December, believe it or not. And I just said to myself, you know what? I really want to get this over with. Obviously, I don't want to.
Sorry, did you say last minute and then December?
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Not quite last minute, my friend. That's 7 months from now.
Oh, I know what you mean by that. Right. But like, we were talking and it was looking like it was going to be March or April. And then at one random email, somehow they had, she, I should say, receptionist had an opening.
Yeah.
And so that was that. And it's kind of happened. But for me, it's happening pretty fast because I expect it next year. But at the same time, I'm just going in with the mentality that I want to get it done and over with.
Yeah, no, I get that. But let me ask you a question. So you said that one side seems like it hasn't quite caught up to the other. Would it happen to be the... Hang on. I don't remember if you told me or not, but does it happen to be the left side?
Yeah.
Okay. Does the angle on the right-hand side shoot off to the right, and then on the left-hand side it's pointing a little bit more forward?
The left point. Yeah, like my hair is basically a spitting image of yours. I always felt so. My hair looks exactly.
It looks like that good.
Your style.
Wow.
As far as like that comb that like comb look in the front.
Yeah.
So is that what you're talking about? Because that's what what I'm looking at.
Okay, so the reason why I ask those questions is because as my friend Spencer Coburn, the great, super intelligent, all-seeing Spencer Coburn says, you're about to get some knowledge that you will not get anywhere else.
Well, I have an idea what you're going to say.
Well, it's the angles that makes it look not quite as thick on the left side than it does on the right side. And the reason because of that is because Mr. Bruno, my friend, understands how to place the angles in a natural fashion. So when we're young and we have our juvenile hairlines, the angle of the direction, of the hairs in our hairline, it's a great continuation of the whorl pattern out of our crown. And as we recede into our temples, that's still the case, but the angles, the direction in the left temple usually will be a bit more distorted because of that recession, and it will actually it points forward, but then on the right hand side the angle kind of comes back, and that's just a continuation of that whorl pattern the way he rebuilt it. So when you're looking in the mirror, you can see in between those hairs on the left hand side because those hairs are pointing forward. On the right hand side, because they're kind of angled off to the side, you can't see in between them. So they're basically they're covering the spaces behind them so you can't see them.
Right.
And that's part of why it might look a bit thicker on the right than on the left.
And also on the right, unless this is kind of like what you're alluding to, like on the right, the hairs are being combed in a direction to where they kind of fall on top of each other, if that makes sense. So that creates the illusion that it's a little denser.
Well, yes, but it's also most likely from the placement as well. Like they probably comb easier in that direction anyway because of the way that they're placed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, the naturalness is the most amazing thing, and it's just like great overall. But the other thing is, sometimes you just do need that second little pass in an area that, mind you, was completely bare to start. It is just what, because the thing is, like, and you'll appreciate this, like, it was my first ever transplant, and I actually went through it, and I as opposed to seeing pictures online for years, but I guess it was a little interesting or fascinating. Like, I think, all these grafts in the front, but it's really kind of fascinating how many grafts it really takes to make actual decent density. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And, so yeah, that it just, so yeah, part of me is like, oh, is it still, did it maybe not catch up completely? Or is this just the way the transplants really are? Where you need this second pass, or like you explained, that the way the angles are and all that. So this is like a final learning experience for me, really.
The reality is a lot different than the education, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you could tell even when I take pictures. It's great. Like my hair, it looks like, even though my hair is fine, I love it. Obviously, I'm going back to them again to Europe, so no problem at all. It was great. But I take pictures, and it looks better in the pictures. Like you see online, all these pictures, the lighting and this and that. So it's it's been a good learning experience. But obviously I don't want to have to go back, but it's a reality for me.
Well, there are worse places to go than Portugal. I mean,
absolutely. I mean,
the journey itself is a pain in the ass. Like, I mean, I still like traveling, but it's still,
Oh, I love traveling. Yeah,
jet lag and people and airports and all that nonsense. But once you get there and you get into the groove of things, man, it's worth it for sure.
It's just I went through so much after that first surgery with, basically hiding under a hat for a couple months and the recovery and the sleeping upright. It's just...
Do you still think it's necessary, hiding under a hat now that you've been through it? Do you think it'll be necessary this time around? Or can you just own it and realize that no one's going to notice anything different except a short haircut?
Yes. It is necessary for me, without going into all sorts of details that would take up too much time.
No. I want to know every detail publicly here on my YouTube channel. Share with the world, my friend.
In a nutshell, nobody knew about this, and it was kept very private, and no one would ever know based on looking at me, because I got the super conservative transplant anyway. But I've never been seen with a shaved head in my life, and it just would have drawn attention. And plus, when it started going back, like the donor it grew in a way where you could tell it. After, the donor took a little extra time to recover, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a true, this guy has a crew cut now. You would have noticed a little something funny, or, so it was that. And, I mean, it's just something I'd just rather, I can pull off wearing a hat anyway at work. So it's may as well, whatever was 2 months before I could start, throwing some fibers and Dermatch in it and pulling it off. Really, it takes a while, it really takes a while for it to grow in and the donor to recover. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, but, you've reached the other side, and that's what matters. And you're about to put yourself through this tortuous hell again.
Yeah.
Good times. No, it's all good.
Yeah,
obviously you're in good hands, and I look forward to hearing about your unremarkable recovery and how things will improve. Like, the question always has to be asked, is it necessary? And at this point, based on what you've told me, it sounds like it's, I don't want to call it a hair greed issue, but it doesn't sound like it's necessary, but you just want to do it. Is that fair to say?
Well, no, my mid-scalp is completely bare. That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh.
This was frontal third.
Oh,
take
okay.
care of this one.
Okay.
And
never mind.
Yeah. So that's part of why it was like, oh, I wish it didn't. If I didn't have to go back, if this was just like I need a little more density, or maybe I want to lower the hairline, forget about it. I wouldn't be going anywhere. This is where I'm still dumping an S ton of fibers into my scalp.
Got it.
Morning,
okay. Okay. Yeah.
The one last thing, if you can give me like one more minute, I want to just tell you, the little plan here.
Sure.
And get your thoughts on it, because on the Bold Truth, you said something that really, really hit hard. Was about, the thought was I was going to lower the hairline ever so slightly, about 0.75 centimeters, right? And then you kind of got into the reasons why that's not a great idea. And, you're rolling the dice again, and I already had the supernatural hairline, and you just don't want to chance it if you've gotten this far and that type of thing. But I definitely heard you, but I'm just still, the thing is right now, I'm super happy with how this result turned out, results for the surgery itself, but I'm not 100% happy with just still the placement, the hairline level. It is still very high in the grand scheme of things, conservative, and just that. And I really hope you can understand this is not like super, super hair green, but like just even a little lower still isn't going to be like low, like, you know what I mean? So I just, what do you do when you look in the mirror and you're just still not 100%? Like I'm at 80%, as far as super satisfied with my hair. Nothing
you count your blessings
at all.
You count your blessings and call it good. Now, that said, I think, okay, more realistically, I think that you're in a position, you just said that you're using an S ton of fibers, and that's why you're going back to fill in that area.
Correct.
I'm not a fan. I don't see a lot wrong with it, but I'm not a fan of going in for one major goal and then addressing something else as a secondary goal when that secondary goal is the hairline. The hairline should always be the priority, because if that doesn't, you can't put an S ton of fibers into your hairline. Okay? So I think that your focus should be the mid-scalp only. Let that be the focus. Do not give the hairline a second thought. Let everything come in the way it's supposed to come in. Give it the time it deserves to do what it's going to do. And at the end of this recovery, if you feel like everything came in beautifully and you're happy with everything, then you can consider doing that little adjustment. And I say that because what if you have the mid-scalp done and then you have another 1,000 grafts to lower the hairline 0.75 of a centimeter? What happens if that mid-scalp didn't turn out the way you wanted it to? And then you got to go back anyway. And it's just like you
I know.
You may feel a bit bitter at that point. It's like, shit, I wanted this part done, and then I got that part done as well, and now I still got to go back for the mid-scalp because that didn't turn out like what happened. And it's like, focus on one thing at a time. You're not you're in a position where you can do that because of the fact that you just said that your hairline is incredibly natural, and you feel like it's coming to the point of maturity where it's like, okay, left side's filled in much more than it has, or much more even, maybe not 100% with right. I explain why it's probably not going to, because of angles and direction, which is not a deficiency. It's just physics of light and the nature of hair. But do what you want to do, obviously, but I think it's best to focus on one thing.
The thing, and I totally hear you. The thing is, though, I really want this to be my final surgery. I don't want to ever have to go back to Europe again. That's the thing. If you told me I had an endless amount of money and the surgeon was, down the block in Upper Manhattan or whatever you want to call it, or Lower Manhattan, that's different. Okay, you can think about the third surgery. That's the difference I feel a little bit with me. It's like I don't I want this really to be it if I could.
Okay.
Does that change? You know what I mean? Does that change anything at all for you? And I totally hear you though. Get this done. That's most important, of course. And then maybe after that, see how you feel. Then you go in with a little bonus surgery at the end, you know. But
yeah,
that's the thing. That's for me. Like I want to be done after this if I really could.
Then that's the route you take. I give my opinions based on, you know, my background and what have you.
Right.
You know, you don't need permission from me to do it the way that you want to do it. You do it the way you want to do it. Just as long as you've heard me and you make your own decision based on, you know, the information that you've got in front of you, then Godspeed. I'm sure that you'll be happy with it. I'm one that tends to err on the side of caution. In my own case,
yeah,
I've gotten back into the back of my scalp to address things that were never addressed prior to these other surgeries.
Yeah,
and it's worked out great. I've piecemealed it. Now, to your point, the clinic's 20 minutes away. I can do that. And in the past, it was 20 paces away because my desk was that far away from one of the ORs.
There you go. Right. I know.
But at this point, with my original point is, with all the work I've done for the back, the crown, the top, I've not touched my hairline in 13 years. The last bit of hairline work I had was in 2010.
You were telling me, right, because you are just happy that you really ended up with what you did, and you know that you don't ever want to possibly chance it.
Yeah. Well, here we are 13 years later, and I'm thinking about chancing it.
Oh, really? Realistically?
Because I've done all I can do legitimately for the back. Like, my part line, I could probably fill that in a bit more, but I don't feel I need to. The hairline, maybe lower it, 3/4 of a centimeter or half a centimeter. I don't know. I've been thinking about it. It's in the back of my head, and knowing myself, the way I think, once an idea takes root, it usually comes to fruition.
Okay. Do you think 500 grafts would be possibly enough for 0.75, 3/4 centimeter?
I'm sorry, how much?
500, 550 for average hair characteristics, for relatively good microns, whatever it's called on that. 500 for 3/4.
I usually apply the 100 grafts per millimeter rule. So half a centimeter, about 500 grafts.
Gotcha.
About 3/4 of a centimeter, 750. I would estimate 1,000 and then come down if the situation presents itself as being worthy of less. So, yeah, I would say in your case it'll be between 500 and 1,000 grafts, but it also depends on the temples and your temple points. Did you have any temple point work in your first round?
I did. I had some nice little work done, very, very small, to kind of give it some structure. It's really nice.
Did you have temple points before?
No, they're not really. No, but I didn't get anything drastic here. This is a very conservative temple points. But go ahead. So here's the conundrum. Will it look okay without more temple point work? If the answer is no, then your numbers have just gone up. Because sometimes hairline lowering is a bad idea if you're not doing hairline forwarding, more specifically temple point forwarding, where they're brought more forward as well to compensate for that profile change, so it doesn't look front loaded from your sides. Yeah, you don't want to look like you're wearing a helmet, right?
Pretty much, yeah, or a wig or what have you. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, talk to the doctor about it. Look at your own pictures. Like, take pictures of your profile and judge for yourself.
I still have a little more personal, research and all that to do, but I definitely want to make that decision before I get there. And
okay,
even months before I get on that plane, I want to have a decision. I don't want to get into that last minute mode where I don't know what we're doing. And then,
Mike, you've been a fine student so far. I'm sure that you will continue to learn and add to your own personal knowledge base and make the right decision for yourself.
Well, I appreciate all the info you've given out. I really it helps. But and you're doing good things for everybody here. So thanks again for all that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the call and the support. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Have a good one.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye. 833-563-4247. That is toll free in North America. I am here to answer your questions about hair loss and hair transplant surgery, just like I did with Mike from New York. Always a great caller from Mike. See what's going on. What time is it? It's 4:49. Oh, wow. We got, 39. We got 21 minutes left for today's broadcast, Tuesday, May 16th. Just a reminder for everyone, today's Tuesday. In 2 days, on Thursday, the 18th, I will be having Dr. Bevan Boy-Rule from Sinclair Dermatology in Australia live to answer your phone calls, answer your questions. I'll be answering the calls. He'll be answering your questions. I'll be answering your questions too. And I think it's a unique opportunity to speak with a doctor that is at the center of the original oral minoxidil discussion, Sinclair Dermatology out of Australia. It's going to be a good one, folks. So if you don't call, at least tune in. I'm sure there will be some nuggets of wisdom shared that you won't find anywhere else. So I hope you tune in. That is Thursday, May 18th at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, just like every show. So give me a call, 833-563-4247. And let's look at some questions. Sergey, my brother. Joe, is there a way to improve the survival of body hair grafts? It's strange that doctors don't try to look into this. Body hair beyond beard provides a large donor resource, at least as filler. Absolutely it does. Well, there are doctors that use hyperthermosol in their storage solutions, which has been shown to increase the survival rates of scalp hair grafts. I don't see why it wouldn't help with body hair grafts, unless there's some factors due to the extraction damage that's caused that makes it too much for hyperthermosol to deal with. But I don't think that's the case. It's the inherent nature of body hair. It's just so much more delicate. It actually has more to do, in my opinion, with the surface area that you're extracting from, as opposed to the type of hair, or maybe it's a combination. Because when you look at the scalp donor, it's a firm, almost non-pliable extraction area. We'll get to that part. Hold on. I'll come back to that. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
You know who it is. Listen, Mike is in it for the long haul, man.
Sorry, who's this?
It's Spencer.
Oh, hey, Spencer.
How are you, Joseph?
I'm good. Winding down, what's turning out to be a pretty good show. How about you?
I can't complain. I just had a ribeye steak watching you on my television. Looking good.
Thank you very much.
Just heard Mike. Mike is in it for the long haul.
Yes,
I
he
gotta
is.
tell you, I'm glad that he's happy with his results so far.
Mm-hmm.
But, the slightest wrong move, anything can happen.
Which happens with every top clinic. Doesn't matter where you go. We've said that
100%.
ad nauseum till we're blue in the face. But I feel, what I love about Mike is he's listening and he's taking it to heart. But it's one of those situations where we hang up. It's like, tell Bruno we said hi.
No, listen, I totally get it. Was he making fun of my helmet? Did I hear that right?
No, I was.
That was a joke, dude, that went right over your head.
No, I recovered by saying it was me with my own joke.
So listen, some guy brought up Huberman and all the, his whole 2-hour hair loss video.
Mm-hmm. Rant, diatribe.
let me just tell you how this works. If anyone out there who really doesn't understand that, I have been in the industry for like 26 years, right? I say that all the time. I've been interviewed by all these guys. Before the internet really became what it is, there was television and there was radio. And I never forget when Dr. Oz had me on his show, and this was his radio show on XM radio, and he wanted to talk about hair loss. And he ended up writing an article about hair loss after the fact. But this was supposed to be America's doctor. This is a guy that everyone listened to about everything when it came to medicine. Obviously, he's a board-certified cardiologist, cardiac surgeon, all that great stuff. But he didn't know shit about hair.
Yeah, great point.
Hair loss or the treatment of hair loss. And the reality was, when I was listening to him ask me questions that obviously his producer provided him with, I really was at a loss. I couldn't believe that this was a physician who was trying to, have a conversation about hair loss on his radio program. And he was talking
based
about,
on cliff notes that his producer gave him.
100%. He was talking about scalp massages. He was talking about blood flow, all the typical horse shit.
Yeah.
And then about a few months later, there was a Reader's Digest article that I was in, he was in, and his old writing partner was in. And, I give my spiel about the reality of treatments. And then I see, horse tail brushes or whatever, horsehair brushes and massages, all this stuff coming from Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
This is the reality, and so over the years, I've learned when people kind of cross over into this field, that's how you really tell that a lot of the experts out there, even though they have great credentials, I know that Andrew Huberman he's like a neuroscientist, right?
Yep.
And he's a professor at Stanford. He's involved in like the neurology and psychiatry department, and all that stuff. He knows about the brain, and he's a super smart guy. He's a great podcaster, and he really presents well. He's able to digest information well and regurgitate it. But he also, he understands his field. But once you get involved in a podcast like he does, you have to kind of hit every aspect of life and medicine and what people's concerns are.
Oh, yeah.
Same with a guy like Dave Asprey. So, Dave was on our show with Alan Bauman, or my show with Alan Bauman at one point. And, this is a super smart guy. He's the godfather of biohacking, extraordinarily successful, gives out medical and health information on a daily basis, has a huge podcast. He's talking to me about Hoshu Wu, which is a Chinese herb that I wrote about back in 1998 as, one of the, almost like as a joke, like as one of the treatments being promoted for reversing graying of the hair or whitening of the hair. So he's talking to me about that, and he's talking about some other stuff, and I'm just like, holy cow, these guys really just know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They're super articulate. Yeah. And so essentially what Huberman may have done, in my opinion, is he has a research team, provided him with all the content that he needed. He was able to digest why we lose our hair and the whole process and all the processes. But when it came to effective treatments and prevention into our field, we know what's up.
Yeah.
And it really does, I think, shine a bright light on the reality of all of these health influencers who have a tremendous following and who may really understand their, the scope of their knowledge base, of how they started out in whatever field they're in. But once they start to venture off into other fields, you're getting the cliff notes, and you're just getting stuff that anyone can find on the internet. And in most cases, in many cases, it's inaccurate.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's enough. That's basically the show right there. I can delete everything else and just cut it down to this, and that is enough. Because that was super valuable.
I agree with that, actually.
Of course you would.
But, I've been disappointed my entire career. I mean, every expert. I've spoken to Ronald Hoffman, who's a big doctor, a big radio guy out of WOR in New York. nationally syndicated. He was the first doctor's broadcast I was on. And he's a super smart guy. Millions of people have taken health advice from this guy. It was embarrassing to speak to him about hair loss. And it's not that he's not a nice guy and a smart guy and good at what he does. But once these guys develop whether it's a radio program or following on television or on the internet, they are given topics that they think is going to either get them ratings or create interest.
It gets eyeballs, and it's something that they can easily tap into financially by putting out their own bullshit products.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. When I was on WOR radio, I was offered an opportunity to sell what's now called nutraceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say through who, but through a very big, well-known doctor. It wasn't Dr. Hoffman. And I was just like, I can't do that shit. But anyway, so I thought it was an important point. Everyone looks at, like even Gary Linkop, super nice guy. He's in the industry.
Mm-hmm. But,
you're talking about his new company, which is great. I'm glad he's doing it for himself. It's terrific, whatever it is. But, one of the things that he wanted to make clear for people is that he's going to provide less expensive alternatives as well. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. That means nothing to me. Except if it's less expensive, then that probably translates to, well, I don't want to speculate, but sometimes less expensive isn't better.
I can say that the vast majority of the products that are being provided in the hair loss space, besides being generic, they are not manufactured or sourced in this country.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are sourced in places like China.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't know what you're getting. And it's important that people understand that. Now, this guy's company may be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my rant. I got to go.
That's a good one. I appreciate the call.
All right, brother.
We'll see you Friday, man.
Take it easy.
All right. You too. Bye. 833-563-4247. That was the one, the only, you know him, you love him, Spencer Coburn. Ladies and gentlemen. Wait, where's the... Yeah. There we go. That's a good one. You guys give me a call if you want to talk about hair loss and hair transplant surgery, or hair transplant surgery, not and. Toll free 833-563-4247. I'm on the air for another 8 minutes. This is your opportunity to sneak one in right before I shut it down. If I don't get any calls in the next couple minutes, I will shut it down a few minutes early, because every minute counts on Tuesday, May 16th. Any questions in the chat room? I saw some chats going on between you guys, which is always nice. I love the interaction you guys have. It's like I've created a little community for you people to enjoy yourselves and to interact with each other. And that's nice. I like what Broaderbun60 says. Solid program today. Thank you very much. Time for an IPA. Always time for an IPA. It's my favorite kind of beer. Let's see. Joe, do you really have enough grafts to lower the hairline 7 millimeters? That's a good question. Because it's not just, it's like I was saying to Mike from NYC, it's not just about lowering my hairline, it's about forwarding my temple points. Because I've not done the calculations myself, because I've not been that interested in doing it to go that far. Once I start drawing lines on my own head and making calculations, then I'm going in the chair. I know myself. So that's one reason why I'm refraining from doing the calculations. But I do know that I would probably have to bring my temple points forward, and I'd be more concerned about that than I am about my hairline. My temple points are, in my opinion, the most natural temple points on the internet. Like, they're dense. Direction and angle is on point. And I'm not bragging, like, I didn't do it. It's just Dr. Wong did. But I don't know if I want to this I can mess with. I can do even a lower density and it would be fine, because that would be the transition zone everyone's so obsessed about. But the temple points, I don't know if I want to mess with them. And if I lower the hairline, I'd probably need to. Do I have the grafts? Yes, I do. One way or another, I do. Anyway, more questions. Benny G, love your hair, how it is. Joe, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm happy with it, but it's one of those situations, hair greed, pure and simple. There's a saying, I forgot where it comes from. Was it Goodfellas? Do as I say, not as I do. That might be the situation here. I don't know. We'll see. Don't fix it if it isn't broken from Zia 10. Yeah, no, I know. There's a good chance I won't do anything. But there's a chance I will. My dad said because of my teens, I used to perm the top and front of my hair all the time and blow dry it out with a round brush like all 4 years of high school. Okay, Mike, I don't know what you're talking about, but good for you. Looks like I jumped into the middle of another conversation among my chat people. My video stopped? Looks like my video locked up. Let's see if I can change cameras. Does that help? What's going on? Huh. Okay, well, I think that answers that. About, it looks like I'm having a software issue. Well, that's fun. All right. Well, I guess that dictates what's going to happen. Everyone, thank you for tuning in and watching today's episode. This is Tuesday, May 6th. I really appreciate everyone tuning in, as always. Yeah, I know, guys. That's why I'm shutting down. Video's gone. And I'm 4 minutes before the hour, so it's a good time for it to freeze up, if it's going to freeze up at all. But yeah, be sure to tune in tomorrow. I'll be back to answer questions and talk about hair loss and hair restoration. And then Thursday, again, Dr. Bevan Boy Rule from Sinclair Dermatology. What I said? I said it's May 16th. Didn't I say it's May 16th? Tuesday, May 16th. Dr. Bevan Boy Rule from Sinclair Dermatology in Australia. He will be live answering your questions. We'll be talking a lot about oral minoxidil because that is what people are asking about. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.